Governess girlies and bursary boys, homeschool your homunculi, deworm the dormitories, and Nick, I won't tell you what kind of deficit disorder I've got, but I think you can guess.
Is that a squirrel?
Oh my God!
Oh no, it's just time to talk Tull to me.
Welcome back to the podcast. I am Omen Thomas Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together, we are the Feckless Moans.
And this, my little midnight pantry raids, is Talk Tull to me.
An alternative provision in the playgroup of prog rock in which nursery school Nick and O-levels Omen will aim for high honors in the careful study of each and every track that ripping rock band Jethro Tul have ever sent out into the world in starched and matching uniforms. We will salivate over Show Up Shell, Scott Hammond, warn the warden about wacky wet Bob, Steven Wilson, and send David Goodyear down to the grubbies for a gaggle of grody puddings. And if we can baffle the beaks, ace our A-levels, and fish the sucker out of the ducker, we may just escape the Edwardian-style pizzicato punishment dished out in great saucy lashings by the headmaster of harmony, a man who will never put words in your Queen of the South, the sidewinder childminder, Ian Advanced Skill Level Anderson.
Was that Cockney rhyming slang?
Some of it was, Nick, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Queen of the South.
Yep, that's what I cottoned on
That's
to.
the mouth.
Yeah.
Because it rhymes.
Literally nothing else rhymes with south and mouth, I think, so I couldn't have gotten anything else.
What about plouth? No, that's not a word.
Yeah. What about plouth?
I'm sure there are other words that rhyme with mouth and south.
Nouse?
Not even close.
Well, it's got the ow. That's not how rhymes work, Nick.
That rhyme is slanted enough to shed snow in the winter.
That's right.
So, Nick, speaking of shedding snow.
Ooh, yeah, let's.
Here we are to shed the snow of music off of our roofs and listen to it as it falls past the windows of our ears.
And drop it into the ears of our listeners.
Hopefully
they're beneath the eaves.
What is the track that we are going to be talking Tull about this day?
We are starting the section called Gerald Goes Homeless. We are on track 4 of 13, so we're just about a third of the way through. We are on Swing It Far.
The baseball section.
Yep, it's when he became a professional baseball player.
In America.
Yeah, a weird choice.
Following in the tradition of all those Brits who come to the U.S.
Great British baseball players.
To come play baseball.
Coming over, taking our jobs.
Our baseball jobs. Before we dive in to that track, Nick, this is an exciting time to be a Tull Skull, an exciting time to be alive.
That it is.
And we have a little Jethro Tull news to discuss.
Yeah. So by now, you have already seen and watched at least a half dozen times, each one of you. You've listened to and watched our Curious Ruminant reaction video.
Yeah, you have.
In which we wondered who was on guitar. And I reached out to James in the middle of the recording. Unfortunately, it was past his bedtime. He didn't get back to us in time, but he did respond later. Mm-hmm. And he said that it is, in fact, Jack Clark on guitar there.
Jack Clark being the bassist for Pineapple Thief, whom being the bassist for
Albion,
whom we saw in concert in London at the Palladium, and who really wowed us. I mean, he's a fantastic guitarist, clearly having a good time on stage, clearly Ian having a good time with him.
Yeah, he took over for Joe Parrish James, who is the lead in Albion, who was with them for a couple years.
Correct.
So that's Jack Clark on guitar, and it is in fact none other than friend of the pod, JDA on drums.
Oh my goodness. At least for that track.
For that track, yes. We don't know the entire run because we also do know that Scott Hammond is featured as well.
Correct. But wonderful to hear JDA on the drums. It's so fun. There's a lot of power behind the track in general, but it's just great to hear the drums And, knowing the person a little bit who's playing them.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun little Easter egg. And with that drop of that single, Curious Ruminant, the title track of the album, they also opened up pre-orders pretty much all over the place. Those that can be pre-ordered in the US are at visionmerch.com. And at that pre-order site, they also have a write-up, a description of the album itself. And it's pretty thorough. It's got some good information for us to keep in mind going into whatever we have for upcoming singles and the album itself.
If you're a Tull fan, which I suspect you might be.
You may be.
I would definitely suggest trying to get your hands on this vinyl, this album in general. I went for the limited run purple edition.
Yes.
Of which there will apparently only be 500 copies.
Grape covered.
It's a scratch and sniff.
Yes, scratch the hell out of it. The more you scratch,
the more it smells like grapes.
The grapier it gets. I love the album art cover. Very nice, very cool. And here is the blurb. It tells us that the item will be shipped on or around March 7th, 2025. Mm-hmm. And that checks out with what JDA said. He said early March somewhere. And our write-up here is, after 2 consecutive new Tull album releases in 2022 and 2023, another collection, Curious Ruminant, is unleashed in March 2025. Consisting of 9 tracks, varying in length from 2.5 minutes to almost 17 minutes.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
Very exciting.
That's exciting.
This is an album of mostly full band music, again in a broadly progressive rock style. Mm-hmm. Among the musicians featured are former keyboardist Andy Giddings.
Very cool.
Very exciting. And drummer James Duncan.
Very cool.
Big Brother James using his stage name there. Along with the current band members David Goodyear, John O'Hara, Scott Hammond, and making his recording debut with the band, guitarist Jack Clark.
A mere fetus of a guitar player.
Just a wee bairn.
A zygote. The 6-string zygote, they call him.
Shred that zygote. Anderson's writing here is often on a spelling error. And on an more personal level of lyric content than we're used to hearing. Interspersed with his usual observational descriptions are the slightly more heart-on-sleeve moments of soul-bearing, albeit not on the topics more often paraded by the usual I-me lyric merchants of pop and rock. Mm-hmm. Some of the songs are developed from unfinished instrumental demos made some years ago, although this does not result in a huge stylistic divide to jump out at the listener. Apart from the signature flute solos and melodies, accordion, mandolin, acoustic, and tenor guitars feature on several tracks too, so the subtle backdrop of acoustic and folk rock serves to remind of the Tull heritage of the 70s. Ian Anderson had been saying for months following the release of Rock Flute that he would embark on a new project in late 2023. He waited only a few weeks before the first notions began to solidify into some drafted words of intent, and in May 2024, some unfinished music recorded earlier with John O'Hara, David Goodyear, and James Duncan became the starting point for the new songs as they took shape. Writing the lyrics and melodies for all the newly written material came very quickly once he began in earnest during June, and just seemed to slot right into the musical feel and styles of the earlier recordings.
It also has a track list, which I had not seen until just now.
Yeah. Track list and length of song.
Yes. So on side A, we have Puppet and the Puppet Master, Curious Ruminant, Dunsinane Hill, which our Shakespeare fans will know the reference.
Ooh, sends a shiver.
The Tippoo House, Savannah of Paddington Green, Stygian Hand. Whoa.
Very exciting.
Stygian is one of the modes, one of the scales, a Stygian scale.
Oh, it's also in reference to the river Styx.
Yes, of course. Side B, we have Over Jerusalem, Drink from the Same Well, which is our almost 17-minute song. And the final track is Interim Sleep.
Right, so that middle song of nearly 17 minutes makes it a 3-track side.
Yes, exactly. I don't think it's medically advisable for either of us to be more excited about this album than we are.
My doctor said no.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That being said, speaking of excitement, I've heard nothing but serious excitement for this single. Some great responses on the YouTube video, the official Tull YouTube video. Some great responses on our YouTube video. Some great responses in the Discord. Everyone seems to be very excited about this upcoming album, this track and the upcoming album. I literally just got an email from Vision Merch saying, we've added more stock of the limited edition versions of Curious Ruminant. Pre-order now while supplies last.
How have they added more of something that they don't have yet?
That's a great question. Maybe they ordered more of a pressing.
Sounds very oppressing to me.
I feel oppressed. Yeah.
Nick, anything else to say about this upcoming album? We will, of course, keep you updated as we are waiting for this with abated breath.
Crite and erect. So I've already added this to our schedule now that we know the drop date and the album tracks itself. So we will be picking up Curious Ruminant after Homo Eroticus. So we will be done with all that catalog before we get to Curious Ruminant. That first episode of Puppet and Puppet Master starts on 7/22/25, and the final of Interim Sleep will be 9/16/25.
Unless something happens in the meantime.
Unless the extra special bonus edition has 12 more tracks, 12 more new tracks, in which
we'll have to see what happens with
Right, yeah.
With .com and bonus material.
Yeah, we'll see when those come out, but I'm guessing we'll just tack those on to the end after Curious Ruminant is my guess, but we'll see.
Lots to look forward to, and today we have to look forward to jumping into Gerald Goes Homeless, Swing It Far.
That's right. Let's swing it at the drum of our ears.
Whatever happened to Gerald Bostock?
You know, I've been wondering that.
I was no good on the rugger field. Pushing and kicking, brutish boys bothered me. Sensitive and caring seemed the lighter, brighter way to be.
Oh my God, that song is freaking beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Nick?
Omen, how much do you hate this song?
Oh, zero amount. I actually really like it.
0%. Yeah, this one's fun.
Fantastic. Let's dive into the music.
Yeah.
We start with some Glockenspiele.
Glockenspiel, which is German, Glockenspiel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's it mean?
I don't know.
Well, Glock is a type of a gun.
Yes. And Spiel is kind of like
when you talk.
You give a gist of something.
Yeah. It's a talking gun.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I don't think that's correct.
Probably not.
While you look that up, we have a wonderful Glockenspiel introduction in kind of a child's nursery rhyme sort of melody, with Ian doing a recitation, the second recitation, unsung recitation of the album. Delightful.
Yeah, and this is a quick one. This is just basically like a little paragraph.
Yeah.
Really 3 lines. 3 lines.
Yes, yeah.
So Glockenspiel is Glocke is bell and Spiel is play. So literally
a play bell.
To play the bells.
Wow.
Yeah.
Glocke?
So Sie Glockenspielen is you play the bells. Ich Glockenspiele is I play the bells.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been working on German, everybody.
The Factus Moms is brought to you by German, a wonderful language for love poetry.
Brought to you by Deutsch.
There's something so overtly childlike about the Glockenspiel playing at the beginning. Like,
yeah, like the little rainbow one that kids have. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of.
Or the sort of music box that you would set up for a child before iPads were invented.
Sonically, it elicits that, but there's also a simplicity behind it as well that makes it really...
Yes.
That kind of also adds to that feel.
Because it's the only instrument playing right there at the intro.
Yeah.
To me, it feels cinematically as if we're going in through the window into the nursery, and Ian opens up a book and he says, "Let me tell you a story about little Gerald Bostock."
Yeah, there's a baby crib right next to him, yeah. And remember, we are going into this is a different branch of Gerald, so we are starting from scratch again.
We are starting from scratch, yes.
That idea, that sound makes total sense.
There's an element to Ian's recitation, which I am going to call slightly camp.
There's something in there.
And I don't mean camp, like the panto, like, wait, hold on a second. I'm going to say something very funny. I just have to look up several pieces of information.
I just have to consult AI to write this joke for me.
I don't mean camp in the Alan Carr, Graham Norton kind of, really flamboyant, over the top sort of way. But there is a little exaggeration on some of these words.
Yeah.
And playing a character in a slightly different way than we've heard it before.
Right, because this is a monologue, in a sense, from Gerald. This is not a narrator. This is Gerald self-autobiographing.
Oh, yes.
Autobiographing. I like it.
Autobiographing. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I was no good on the rugger field. What's the rugger field, Nick?
We're not talking lyrics yet.
We have to talk these lyrics because it's part of the music.
Okay. Ruggerfield is rugby.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the alliteration of brutish boys bothered me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's it.
That's it?
We'll get into the lyrics in the second half.
Of a bitch.
Be patient. So then when we get into the first proper sung verse,
At about 15
seconds in, we have this very intimate singing. Ian seems very close to the mic. You can even hear some of the mouth sounds. You can actually hear his lips and tongue. It's beautiful. You feel like you're right there with him.
You get some inhalations as well.
Yes.
Mr. Jennings, good housemaster, seemed instinctively to understand.
We bring in the acoustic guitar, played by Ian. We have the bass.
It's also electric, isn't it? Isn't there electric in there doing the strums, or is that just acoustic? I thought it was electric, which I thought unusual. I'm convinced it's electric.
Okay, let me take a listen.
Yeah.
Boogie, woogie, woogie.
Mr. Jennings, good housemaster,
Those chords?
seemed instinctively to understand. Touched me with his
Acoustic.
Listen to that plucking. Are you fucking kidding me?
I think it's acoustic.
Nope. Disagree. Hard disagree.
gentle presence, under bedclothes, underhand.
There's a possibility it's electric. it might be electric.
I think it's electric.
So we have the guitar coming in very, very soft. It's a very, very gentle, soft opening to even the sung part. So there's a lot of gentleness already, which plays in thematically.
Yeah. We're setting up this really soft kind of introductory feel, bringing us gently into this feeling. And if it is indeed electric, Omen.
Which I've always said it is.
You did. I have to give you that. This might be the softest electric in Tull I've ever heard.
That's why I thought it was acoustic.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was acoustic. Yeah.
When we get to about 49 seconds, we have the beginnings of the verse, "Overnight he did a runner."
Yeah.
We have some spectacular piano being played.
Gorgeous piano.
Overnight he did a runner, threatened with harsh expose.
Really, really, really nice work from John O'Hara here.
Yeah.
It's just very piano-y. There's something very earnest about this section.
I very much do enjoy John O'Hara's playing. I really want to look up to see if he's done anything else because, I loved him in the concert and I've just been really tickled. Everything I've heard up to this point.
And then at that time, we also have a new voice singing.
We do.
The voice of one Ryan O'Donnell.
Ryan O'Donnell.
Let's see. He's probably not Scottish or anything.
He is English.
Ryan O'Donnell, an Englishman, who brings his voice in. He sings this verse. We have him intermittently throughout the song. He and Eden kind of trade off. It's great. The thing that I love about it is that his voice isn't that much different from Ian's, where the first time you listen to it, you might just think, you might not catch it.
To be honest, I thought it was David Goodyear, actually.
Because we saw him sing in the concert.
Exactly. And if I remember correctly, it sounded fairly similar.
Right. We're making the assumption that it's Ryan O'Donnell.
Yes.
But it could, in theory, be David Goodyear. But it is another voice. And it's great because it sits in that Ian range for a minute. And then it goes up real, real high. And it's supported. And it's just like, it's lovely. And then we have the two of them doing a harmony later on in the song. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I kind of want this all the time.
It's really pretty. It's really, really nice. Like you said, it'd be really nice if it did happen a little more often, whether it's with Ryan O'Donnell or anyone else, just because it really does help to supplement Ian in carrying the load, you know?
And as we saw in Share the Load.
Share the load.
As we saw in the concert, there is more singing being done by other members of the band, whether it be harmony or whether it be, hey, I'm going to take this verse of Aqualung.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really nice. You know, if I hadn't heard it and seen it, I would think, oh, that's going to dilute the brand. It's going to be not Tull. No, it's great. It's still Tull.
Yeah.
There's some other people who are singing.
And I'm pretty sure this is one of the only times we hear Ryan O'Donnell in this album, which is
interesting.
Kind of an interesting choice.
Interesting. Yeah. Just shows up for homeless section.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little more about Ryan in our halfway.
My favorite thing about this song is the punk rock switch 'em up.
Yeah, just after 1 minute, yeah.
Yeah, about 1:10, we get Parents Listened, Didn't Get It. It is angry. I literally had to turn down the volume on my headphones.
Oh, wow.
Because I had it up, you know, for the softer bits, and then it was like, bam, rage. Mm-hmm. You really feel the strong emotion coming across. The drums go crazy. The bass is ganking it.
And Ian's voice comes through a filter, like a speaker filter as well.
Yeah. Almost reminiscent of like a protest.
Yeah. We hear that in Aqualung. And didn't we hear that in one of the first tracks on this album?
Great effect. There's a feeling of separation, a feeling of
rage,
disidentification,
disassociation,
where you're on the fringes of society. Disenfranchisement, sure. It's something. Some word that fits how that sounds. And then Ian takes over with Camden Market in the winter, back to that softer sound.
Right. So if we're looking at the structure of Ian just slightly singing, to Ryan singing, and then to that burst of heavy, we kind of get a repeat of that series.
We do. And even though we kind of go pianissimo, piano, forte, piano, piano, forte, it is all still building. The whole thing as a whole builds the layers and the different sounds that we're hearing.
Yeah.
It's truly lovely. I mean, this whole thing feels like orchestrated.
Yeah. It's no surprise that literally every note and every playing of said note is considered, and options are considered, and they try this and then they try that, and they make sure, whether it's Ian in the studio telling John to play it this way, or Ian and Steve Wilson after the fact talking about it and then reconsidering, or coming in the next day and saying, hey, I want you to play it again, but this way, you know, all sorts of options are there, you know, and nothing is cemented until it's cemented. So
right,
you could go a decent chunk of time and then maybe have to go back. I imagine even more so in something like this, because of the concept aspect of, if you come up with something for a track down the line and you're like, oh, that would be really nice if we put this back here.
Yeah.
And then you got to kerjigger everything.
Well, I figure, you know, we learned a little bit about the recording process and the writing process for this. And it sounds like Ian did a lot of the writing and concept stuff in one period. And then there was a break of 8-10 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming back to it, they then did the recording and all the mixing. So I suspect that Ian had it pretty well figured out by the time they actually started laying down the tracks.
Right. Yeah. I imagine there was just south of solid idea of the sonic delivery and You know, you can't have it super cemented until you get the guys in there to actually hear how they're playing it.
Yes.
But then that's when that next level of tweaking happens.
And having it all sorted out, well in advance gives you the ability to be very detailed with it when you actually get in there.
Yes, which I feel like is certainly a bonus of having been creating music for 40, 50 years.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got the experience.
One would hope so.
One would think.
Yeah.
We have on the streets, a rude survival, hot like-minded overtures, sad departure. We have that beautiful harmony of the two voices. It is just a lovely, lovely, lovely sound.
Yeah.
Maybe my favorite sound on this album so far.
Yes, there really is something to be said about the harmonization and the mixing of two voices that are not both Ians.
Right. And I'm a sucker for harmony in any context.
Yeah, right.
We don't get a whole lot of it in Tull.
No, even with other guest voices, they don't necessarily really harmonize.
I saw a random picture on the internet of Eddie Jobson in a completely non-Tull context. It's a prog account, I guess I follow on Instagram. And I didn't see the caption. I was just like, who is that lanky, spiky looking dude with the... It's like he had... His boots were spiky. His collars was like very elongated. I was like, who is this scarecrow of a human being? Eddie Jobson.
Special guest Eddie Jobson. He had a theme that he went with and he stuck with it.
Yeah. Acute angles.
Triangles, yes.
Triangles. At 2 minutes 46...
is when we get our little 2-second silence.
Is when we get a little 2-second silence, which is very, very silencios.
It is.
It is silencioso.
It's very Steve Wilson.
You don't like it, right up yours. There comes a point.
It's very Steve Wilson, but I think it's also very this album in this era of Ian.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. We've already heard the use of that effective silence once before.
Yes.
On this album.
And then we go back in with There Comes a Point When Deep Conviction. Oh my God, I love that. We have the shout of Right Up Yours.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's fun.
Which all the music drops out and it's just the voices shouting that. And then we go back to that glockenspiel song.
Yeah, our lullaby.
We have the song bookended with this lullaby, and it's fun. Great construction.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It tells a very thorough story, as expected, both sonically and lyrically, and it's a solid song. It's a good one. It's the first of our, it's not an intro overture song, and it's not the medleys as well. So this is our first like beefy single song.
And it's not a song about a banker.
Not about a banker. It's not about beef.
It's the first song from Jethro Tull that we've had that's not about a banker.
After 60 albums.
After 40 years.
Yeah.
After 400 years of playing.
400 years.
Banker bash. Banker in the jungle.
It's banker in the jungle.
Look, banker breath.
Locomotive banker.
Fat banker. Hot nights in banker pest.
Too old to rock and roll, too young to bank.
She said she was a banker.
Oh, man. So Ryan O'Donnell,
I've heard of him.
You may have heard me mention him, is an English singer. He was born in Halifax, West Yorkshire, not Nova Scotia.
Oh, that's so crazy that they named a town in West Yorkshire after the town in Canada.
Strange, very strange. But he grew up in Germany.
Oh, okay.
After earning a degree in animation at the Surrey Art Institute, he joined the metal band 2 Degree Field as a singer and guitarist.
Wow.
The band broke up when all of the members finished college. He then went to study acting at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, where he met his mentor, the conductor, John O'Hara.
What?
Yeah. And it's funny, in the Wikipedia page, the link to John O'Hara actually links to John Henry O'Hara, a writer from 1905 to 1970.
Hey,
Anything to get your name out there. He became a best-selling novelist before the age of 30. His legacy as a writer is debated, but his work was praised by such contemporaries as Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald.
I just now realized that you were talking about the writer and not the musician.
Nope, still talking about him.
So confused.
And when you click on the John O'Hara disambiguation, one of your choices is John O'Hara musician. If you click on it, it takes you to the Jethro Tull Wikipedia page. There is no John O'Hara.
Crazy.
Which is a gosh darn shame.
It's a figment of our imagination.
Anyway, so after university, he began an acting career. He was at the RSC for a little bit. He collaborated with Cat Stevens. And in 2012, he participated in the making of Tab 2. And he was also present in the 6th solo album by Ian Anderson, Homo Eroticus. So we'll see him next album as well.
And when you say he had a theatrical career, it wasn't just the RSC. He actually did some West End stuff. Sunny Afternoon. He did the national tour of Jesus Christ Superstar.
He was Pontius Pilate. And that was just a scant year and a half ago, 23. Yeah.
Interesting career. And one can assume that John O'Hara was like, Ian, you've got to meet this student of mine. He's just fantastic. I would love to bring him in for something. And this is great. And what a good choice to bring in a singer who's really an actor.
Particularly for this part, yeah.
Particularly for this album, and particularly for this part.
Yeah.
Because Tull is nothing if not dramatique.
It's pageantry. It's all pageantry.
It's a pageant.
Yeah.
It's a beauty pageant, and we all won.
I love watching Ian dead drop. It's...
Death drop?
Oh, it's death drop? Oh. Ooh. Sorry.
I don't think the pageant girls do a lot of death dropping. That's more the club scene.
Well, that's what they're doing wrong. And that's why I'm going to sweep it next year.
His speech about his world peace is wonderful.
Everyone shut up and pet cats.
So I can get some damn world peace. Nick McGill.
Omen Thomas Sade. Gerald goes homeless with Swing It Far.
What do we mean by swing it far? Caught you off guard there.
That's a good question. Yeah, I didn't think about that, and I don't know why. Is it like aim for the fences? That doesn't really feel like it fits based on the context of the song, Yeah,
it's hard not to read a baseball reference in there, but I do kind of get the sense of like shoot for the stars.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Or get out of there, like have aspirations, perhaps.
I just Googled it, and all I'm getting is literally the
song.
Lyrics to this album. Yeah, so it's not... Oh, I also got how far can you jump from a swing? So, I mean, there's also that.
That's it. There we go. He starts off with the recitation, I was no good on the rugger field. Pushing and kicking, British boys bothered me.
British?
I was no good on the rugger field. Pushing and kicking, brutish boys bothered me.
Beautiful British boys baked me in a bonfire.
But they bought me a bracelet.
A beautiful bracelet. Okay, let's be serious. Let's not be silly.
Not in this. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Sensitive and caring seemed the lighter, brighter way to be.
Sensitive and caring seemed the lighter, brighter way to be.
I wasn't a rough monster on the rugger field. People bullied me, but I was happy with and thought that the choice to be nicer and sweeter and softer and more sensitive was the right choice to make.
I can relate to this experience. I, too, chose the sensitive, caring, lighter, brighter way to be, and I did not like being with the brutish boys who certainly bothered me in middle school and high school.
And you were no good on the rugger field.
I was terrible on the rugger field. Yeah, obviously a reference to rugby, but rugby is the contact sport of Britain.
Yeah.
Interesting. So there's an implication of a soft boy, a sensitive child.
And with that, it carries a bit of a connotation of not caring that, boys will be boys. They're going to throw sticks at each other and beat the hell out of each other. And that's just what they do.
It's something a little bit beyond that. It's like,
Yeah.
boys will be boys, but that's not who I am. I don't relate to that.
Yeah.
And then we soon get the explanation as to why that was the case.
Yes.
Mr. Jennings, good housemaster, seemed instinctively to understand.
Mr. Jennings, good housemaster, seemed instinctively to understand.
All right, let's back up for a second. We have to contextualize this in the context of a British boarding school.
Right. What's a housemaster?
Housemaster is somebody who literally looks after the domicile aspect of the students.
The students who live on site.
Who live on site, that's right. They are boarded, they are boarders. Mm-hmm. And so whereas the headmaster is the head of the school.
Like the principal or the superintendent.
Right.
Yeah.
The housemaster is responsible for smaller groups. And, in a big boarding school, you would have, our reference is, of course, Hogwarts.
Yeah.
You would have different houses.
Right. Think McGonagall for Gryffindor, Snape for Slytherin. So we're talking Gerald's housemaster, Mr. Jennings.
Was Mr. Jennings.
Seemed instinctively to understand.
He saw something in Gerald. He saw Gerald and he thought there's something different about this boy.
This boy's no good on the rugger field.
Maybe I will touch him with my gentle presence. So far, so good. I was a delicate star child, and there were definitely teachers in my middle school who said, hey, I'm going to write you a hall pass so you can go and water the plants whenever you need to. And that was great for me. I was like, that's fantastic. It gets me out of, some of these situations. It gave me a sense of autonomy. But then we get to the line, under bedclothes, underhand.
Touched me with his gentle presence, under bedclothes, underhand.
That's tied to the idea of Gerald being touched. Yeah.
Yeah.
Touched me with his gentle presence, but also
with his hands.
Under bedclothes.
Yeah.
Underhand. And underhand meaning like sly.
On the sly.
On the sly, yeah.
On the DL. So we are suddenly thrust into a story, trigger warning, of child abuse, sexual child abuse.
Predation.
Child sexual abuse, predation.
Predation and possibly, what's it called? What's the big catchword?
Hemophilia.
Grooming. Hemophilia?
That's not the one. Pedophilia. That's the one. I knew it was one of the philias.
He bled really easily. That's why he was bad on the rugger field.
It's terrible.
It makes sense now.
Yeah. Old hemorrhage Gerald.
Gerald nosebleed Bostock.
So it's interesting. I mean, this is an extremely serious topic, and
yes.
Ian has never shied away from serious topics. Man, I have such mixed feelings about this whole section of the album.
Generally, his kind of more serious, intense topics have been a little more abstract. This is a really evocative, specific topic and instance of this topic.
Yeah. Overnight, he did a runner, threatened with harsh expose.
Overnight he did a runner, threatened with harsh expose.
Oh my God, I love the scansion on that. I felt pieces dropped out of classes into life's endless melee.
I fell to pieces, dropped out of classes, into life's endless melee.
Endless melee.
Part of the reason that I have mixed feelings about this section is that this is, besides the chicken fancier
And the chicken fancier came to play.
and the old queer,
Old Queers and Leching Greys. Don't forget Leching Greys.
We're rather make it with our leching free.
besides those mentions, this is the only overt example of homosexuality in any of the Tull canon.
Oh, yeah, Leching Greys. Not. I thought you were just talking about pervs.
Oh, no, there's pervs all over the place.
But yes, yeah, I think you're right.
And it falls into what is, sadly, kind of a quite common story for this time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that story as a model, I think, has a place in the public consciousness, certainly in America, but probably also in Britain, of oh, that's what homosexuals do. They abuse children.
Yeah, it's a bit stereotypy.
But also, because homosexuality was so looked down upon, so stigmatized, stigmatization and denial that something exists creates these dark corners in society where things do happen.
Right, because the only time you ever actually hear about it is when something bad happens.
Exactly.
Ergo, the only instance I ever know of this is when this happens. So that's what must be.
Exactly. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I told you about my uncle who had schizophrenia.
Yeah, you did.
He was probably at a similar time to when Gerald would have been a young lad. He was asked down to New York City by his English teacher and molested / maybe groomed. I mean, there was something not quite above board happening.
Yeah.
And it was I'll show you how to be a man type thing.
And this was in what, the early 1900s, like 40s, 50s?
40s, 50s, probably 50s, let's say.
Yeah.
And that was all wrapped up in drug use and all kinds of things.
Of course, yeah.
But that was the beginning of his spiral into severe schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So that line, I fell to pieces, dropped out of classes, kind of hit me certainly hard and speaks to some of the statistics that you see around LGBTQ youth.
Yeah.
It's a higher rate of drug use, higher rate of homelessness, a higher rate of abuse, all kinds of stuff.
So is it I fell to pieces because I was molested? Is it fell to pieces because it was figured out and I was ostracized? Is it because this person that maybe I had feelings for has had to run away, and he's introduced me to feelings that I've never felt before, and he's the only one that I know these feelings for?
All of it.
Right?
And maybe didn't have feelings for that person.
Right, yeah.
I think it's all of that together. It's suddenly I didn't realize I was doing something bad. And now I'm at the heart of this scandal. And, how many people are saying, oh, well, this Gerald kid clearly, seduced nice old Mr. Jennings and got him fired.
Yeah.
How much is he being blamed societally?
Yeah, Mr. Jennings has been around forever until Gerald.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the British boys who bother him on the rugger field weren't particularly nice about the whole matter. Compassionate about the whole matter.
Yeah.
So, it really is describing a very, very, very difficult situation for young Gerald.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we get into the anger section.
Yeah.
What were we taught? If something gives you the feeling, you tell an adult.
Yeah. And this is our filtered, angry, yelling section, sonically.
Yeah. He did tell his parents. They listened, but they didn't understand it. His dad calls him a poof, which is a disparaging...
A poofter, yeah.
It's a disparaging term for a homosexual.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Jesse refers to.
I think it's the same thing, if I remember correctly, yeah.
Poof and Jesse, Daddy said, Mummy tried but fussed and fretted, skeleton's bust left under the bed.
Parents listen, didn't get it. Papa Jesse, Daddy said, Mommy tried but fussed and fretted, skeleton's best left under bed.
So it sounds like, he's having problems in school. He goes to his parents. He's like, look, this is what happened. They're like, no, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to pretend like this didn't happen and just be a regular boy.
Yeah. Jesse is an effeminate, weak, or cowardly boy or man.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And why didn't you stand up to him, Gerald? All of the victim blaming, all of the societal stuff happening in this moment.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It happened because you weren't strong enough.
It's tough. This is tough material.
Yeah.
So then we have an interesting shift of setting. We go from the boarding school to home to suddenly Camden Market in the winter. And Nick, we've actually been to Camden Market.
The feckless Momes have visited Camden Market.
And you remember what it was like?
Yeah, it was a zoo.
Yeah.
There were portions of it that were very, for lack of a better term, like bohemian kind of hippie areas a little bit. But some other parts were pretty commercialized.
Yeah.
But you said that was kind of new compared to when you were there last.
Well, and then if you think back into the 50s or 60s,
Right, yeah.
I can only imagine that it was a spot where decent, upstanding folk don't necessarily go.
Yeah. For any number of reasons, yeah.
I love that it's in the winter. A cold stone's throw from Kentish Town.
Camden Market in the winter, a cold stone's throw from Kentish Town.
Meaning you have to go past the Cold Stone Creamery and then you get to...
That's right. You throw an ice cream and then, that's Kentish
That's
Town.
Kentish Town right there, yeah.
Well, one of several many mentions of Kentish Town in the Tull catalog.
Yep.
Got a minute? Just the ticket. Meet the boys and mess around and mess around.
Got a minute? Just the ticket. Meet the boys and mess around. And mess around.
One has the impression of Gerald finding his way into the fringes of society where the other homosexuals are.
Right. The homosexuality, the drug use, the any number of things, unemployed, people who are ostracized, they only have
Each other.
They only have each other. And if like you're entering a group that does this thing, you kind of...
You do that thing. Yeah.
If you need that safety in that family, you get pulled right into it.
Yeah. This is one of the more fascinating, just because it's so different. This is such a different story than anything else that we've had from Ian.
Yeah. It's such a definitive story that, normally there's allegory and there's kind of like, well, you could look at it this way or you could look at it this way. And this is like straight on.
And there is a lot of potentially joy and excitement in this moment.
Right. Yeah.
If you look at the art from the 1960s, I forget, no idea who it was. There was a famous photographer who documented the gay scene, the under the radar gay scene, I think in New York, actually, but around this time, 60s, 50s. And it was a lot of people hanging out in abandoned buildings.
Right.
Or parks. There's a reason why queer culture has always historically gravitated toward these overlooked places because they were overlooked, because there was less of a chance of the coppers walking in.
Yeah. Or bigots seeing them and attacking them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Independence far from suburbia. Dossed down and dirty, tucked up tight.
Independence far from suburbia, dossed down and dirty, tucked up tight.
I love that there's this sense of pride. Like, you know what? I may be living in a block of concrete with newspapers for a blanket with drug-addled Sally man over there, but I'm not in suburbia anymore. This is real.
Right. This is the real world. You're out of that kind of comfort zone bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't need that fancy school. I don't need my parents. I love this line. How's your father? Not too chipper. Serves the bugger flippin' right.
How's your father? Not too chipper. Serves the bugger flippin' right. Flippin' right.
I mean, in this context, all of them would be on the outs with their family.
You would think so, yeah.
So even the question of, how's your father? It's kind of a provocative joke in a way.
Oh, interesting.
Do tell.
It's a phrase that can be used just as a greeting, as a general greeting, like, how's your father? Not bad. It can also be used as an euphemism for sexual intercourse in British English.
How's your father?
A bit of the how's your father?
Don't mind if I do. Don't mind if I does.
Ask me about me pappy.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot in there. There's a lot going on here.
Yes. Yeah, there is. There is.
But there is some sense of, in this moment at least, this a little bit of reclaimed sense of self-victory, even if it is victory by virtue of having exited the society that rejected you.
Right. I think the key word in there is that independence.
Yes, absolutely.
Not like, woe is me, I'm homeless. It's, look at me, I'm independent.
Yes.
I'm not in this structure of society.
Yes.
I'm not being frowned upon. I'm with people that presumably I want to be with,
Sure.
Whether it's I chose these specific people or not, it's more I'm with people who don't treat me like shit.
Or at least who get it. And as if we needed a reminder of that, we switch right back into that punk rock super angry verse. Parents listen, didn't get it. Poof and Jesse, daddy said.
So we get that piece, and then there's another little follow-up on that as well, the On the Streets.
On the streets, a rude survival, hot like minded overtures. Oh my God.
On the streets, a rude survival, hot like-minded overtures.
It's so annoying to see someone just get better and better at something over the course of 50 years. This writing is incredible.
Yeah, how dare he? Who is it? Malcolm Gladwell, the 500,000 hours or something like
10,000 hours.
How dare he quadruple what Malcolm Gladwell said and work his entire life to do this and somehow get better at it?
He passed 10,000 hours in 1975.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just amazing. Hot like-minded overtures. Yeah, I mean, one can imagine the sort of things that go on in this community.
Right.
And if one can't imagine it, one can Google it.
Safe search on, ladies and gentlemen. So On the Streets, a rude survival, rude meaning like rough, not easy, kind of a rough survival, but also could be rude in the sense of people are being rude to you,
Absolutely.
You're not necessarily getting along with everyone that you see.
Right. Sad departure, sweet arrival. If you don't like it, write up yours.
Sad departures, sweet arrival. If you don't like it, write up yours.
Again, it's that defiance, that sense of, maybe it's that sense of like society has made me this, and so screw you, society.
Right. Society has made me this, but society is also shitting upon me for being what I am.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, jog on.
It's kind of amazing to me how, at the same time, how stereotypical the format of this story is, and yet how really accurate and not introspective, but incisive.
Yes, it's stereotypical, but it's not stereotypical in the sense that it's a grand scoping story. We get very specific details here that are completely understandable and completely believable.
Perhaps it's more archetypal.
Yeah.
And again, I think we have to remember that this is Ian's perspective on this, and Ian is from a certain generation.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And maybe he had friends who went through this experience. Probably he did.
The rock and roll world was certainly more open than others, but it was still like kind of hush hush, I mean, think about Freddie Mercury.
I'm never not thinking about Freddie Mercury.
Don't not stop unthinking about never Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. Thank you for that advice. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt.
Yep.
And all of this is leading toward the second track in this doublet.
Yeah, we do have one more bit of lullaby here.
Yeah. There comes a point when deep conviction bears down hard on who you are, pointless to don a cloak of denial. Get the lead out and swing it far. Swing it far, swing it far, swing it far.
There comes a point when deep conviction bears down hard on who you are. Pointless to don cloak of denial. Get the lead out and swing it far. Swing it far.
Get the lead out?
Is hurry up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Remove the lead from your shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
As if you had lead in the shoes.
Yeah. So you are who you are. Don't deny it. Embrace it.
Right.
It's pointless to deny that. Maybe get the lead out and swing it far is more hurry up and do it. Hurry up and embrace it. Swing it far. Be who you are. Experience who you are. Show others that you are who you are. Don't deny it. Be it and exist in that.
Yeah, the Camden Market bit seems to almost be a little bit of a limbo, sort of this is just what I'm doing right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's the first step out of that structured society that is boys' school and life in the suburbs with mom and dad.
Yeah. You leave home, where do you end up? Camden Market.
Yeah. Yeah, because they are the ones who will accept you given your life circumstances. And that's the first step. And maybe you're a little bitter and maybe you're a little confused and then you get a little defiant. And then ultimately the moral of the story is that last bit. It's right up yours to whoever disagrees with your way of living and then embrace that.
You know, I even wonder, reading this narratively, if after the Camden Market section, that repeat of the chorus is almost like going back home.
Oh.
And saying like, hey, look, I ran away from home. I moved out, but I want to try to make this work. I want to be your son. And they still don't get it. And he's like, well,
It's
you
the
know
same
what?
thing, yeah.
I'm going back to that group of guys that I met
Yeah.
at the half burned down Tesco's.
Right. Hot, like-minded overtures. Maybe Dad and Gerald fighting one another over this.
Could be, yeah.
Maybe.
Or sad departure, sweet arrival. I'm sad to leave my home knowing that I've had a rupture with my parents, but actually, you know, it's really nice to get back to these, to the fellas.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I like that idea. That attempt at they've had time to think it over. Maybe I'll be welcomed back. And the idea of staying there in that house where you are thought of as lesser and looked down upon is worse than living on the streets in a rude survival.
I had a friend in high school who was not straight and did his damnedest to try to pass.
Yeah.
You know, his parents were very conservative, very Christian, and eventually they said, well, look, you know, if you can't be, you know, a normal kid, then you can't stay here. And he said, fine. And called me and said, hey, can I come stay at your place for a little while? And I asked my mom, and she was like, absolutely.
I love your mom. She's so great.
She took in a lot of strays, you know, and they were so shocked by the fact that he actually left that they were like, no, we're just kidding. We love you. You can come back. And ultimately, you know, I think that he didn't have exactly this trajectory, but he was in some pretty dicey circles for a while, and now is just doing great, owns a gym and is a businessman and all that. But
when you come from that environment and you're forced to leave that place of not being safe and being hated,
yeah,
you're gonna lash out and you're gonna kind of jump in with both feet, as opposed to like making conscious, safe decisions that are not kind of in direct retaliation of not being accepted.
Yeah. And again, this plays out in the statistics.
Sure.
LGBTQ youth have a way higher rate of homelessness, a way higher rate of violence committed against them, of drug use, of mental health issues, not because they're gay or trans, but because society, when finding out they're gay or trans, made their life a living hell and kicked them out of safe situations.
Yeah. There are a lot of resources out there. If you are experiencing this, if you know someone who is experiencing this, there are tons of resources out there. If you can't get help, write us an email at fecklessmomes@gmail.com. We will help you. We'll figure something out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you don't mind living in upstate New York,
I'll call my mom.
Oh, yeah, Omen's mom. Even better. Yeah.
Swing it far. 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 Swing it.
So, we have the beginning of this journey of Gerald Bostock. We continue next week with Adrift and Dumbfounded. That sounds hopeful.
Right? Yeah. This is a happy ending, isn't it, guys? Isn't it?
Oh, God.
Yes, so that'll be the button on Gerald Goes Homeless.
Yeah.
That will be track number 5. Until next week, I am no good on the rugger field. I'm no good on the Australian rules football field.
We've proved that, actually.
Yeah. I'm Nick McGill.
I am a poof and a Jesse. I'm Omen Thomas Sade.
We are independent and far from suburbia. We are Feckless Momes.
And this is the skeleton under your bed. Talk Tull to me.
Trust me, gay is in, gay is hot. I want some gay, gay it's gonna be.